Pete is asking, am I doing Tuscany again this year? And the answer is yes. In fact, one of the weeks of Tuscany, which was is already sold out, which is pretty awesome. So we're doing a second week of the sold out one, because we always offer it to the people who have been before first, because they all got to know each other, and it becomes a little family kind of a thing. So we're doing a beginner week this year, which will be just me teaching, just something like maybe 4 hours of lessons a day, and the rest of the time just to enjoy yourself or do extra practice, just because beginners can't, they're going to shred their fingers up pretty bad if they do much more than that. So it's not really beginners, it's for people who have just finished the beginner's course or are finishing the beginner's course, is the kind of the idea. And we kind of consolidate all of the stuff on the beginner's course, and I teach you some extra stuff as well. And we're doing then another week of the jamming workshop, which is funk this year. So that's hosted by me and Dario Cortese, another fantastic guitar player. And basically we coach people for jamming together. It'll be kind of loosely based on a funk style, just because funk's a really good thing to work on your rhythm. So it's a mixture of kind of classes about rhythm and lead ideas and licks and ear training and all of that sort of stuff, as well as a jam session every afternoon with a band. So we have a drummer and bass player coming along, and me and Dario have a bit of a jam, and then people get up and jam with us and jam with each other, and everyone gets to play, and it's all just really good time, amazing food. I'll be putting a newsletter out about the Tuscany workshop, because remember, these kind of offers go out to the newsletter people first. So if you want to get in there, because it might well sell out, you want to make sure you signed up for the newsletter. Yeah, that will be going out probably this week. Actually, I'm trying to get the Blues League course going enough to announce it. I need to make sure that the first few weeks are uploaded, and then if that's happened, then I'm going to do the newsletter. That's kind of what I'm waiting for. Okay, there was just a question on amp something, but that just disappeared from my screen. I think it was an amp for beginners. So the recommended amp that I always say for people, it's not beginners, but if you're kind of progressing through and you want to get yourself a decent amp, well, I say decent. The Fender Mustang is generally what I recommend for people if they get, for a beginner amp. It's really good. It's got loads of different sounds. But there's probably a time where you want to kind of graduate to a valve amplifier, basically. And valve amps, you don't get all of the fancy built-in effects usually and any of that sort of stuff, but the tone quality is a lot better in valve amps, in my humble opinion. And a really good amp like that, I've mentioned it almost every week, is a Fender Blues Junior. Really, really great little amp. If you don't want to spend thousands, if you've got 3,000 or 4,000 to spend, then there's a lot of really beautiful boutique valve amps to choose from, right? But it's probably not a good first valve amp, because you don't really know what you want yet. So a Fender Blues Junior is a really good choice. London workshops would be a really good idea, but the problem with doing London workshops is it's not much of a getaway for most people. And I think the beautiful thing about having a way workshop is that you fly somewhere else, and you're removed from all of everyday life, and you've just got to focus on your guitar for that week, and I think that's a really nice thing. So I have been trying to get some London stuff off the ground. I tried a few times to find venues that I thought would be good, and it didn't kind of happen for various reasons. So I'm still looking, and it may well happen this year. In fact, I really hope it happens this year. It's just it hasn't been on my priority just recently. Okay, what have we got here for part 2? On average, how long does it take you to write a song, individually or with WeCast, and when do you know when it's time to stop tweaking? From Toby. Wow. Songs can really take any amount of time, as long as it takes to play the song. I've had a few songs where I've sat down and just played the whole song pretty much all in one go, and then that's it. To a couple of years where I've gradually revisiting or come back to stuff. So very different. In We Came as Strangers, we write the whole record in 2 weeks, so it's definitely never longer than 2 weeks. A lot of those things are kind of jams, so we go in and jam, and then we pick bits that we like, and we piece them together, and then replay bits. And sometimes, that chorus sucks, so we'll have to put a different chorus in stuff. So it's pretty intense, because we're trying to write so quick. But it's so different for everyone, so I don't think there's really a standard answer for that. tweaking can go on forever. I mean, I've read loads of musician biographies and then talking about spending, you know, a year working on a record and trying this and trying that and doing it this way and doing it that way. And I mean, you could probably do that. I could see myself falling into that rabbit hole, but I think it's better to just make decisions about stuff. And, you know, it's like guitar amps. I don't know how many of you guys are into the whole recording thing, but it's quite common to record a dry signal of your guitar as well. So you plug your guitar into a DI box, and then out of the DI box into your effects and amps and all that sort of stuff. And the reason that you record that as well as a separate feed. And the reason is that if you decide that you don't like the sound later, like you decide that there was too much delay on it, or you didn't like the reverb, or the chorus wasn't right, or whatever, you can use a thing called a reamp box, which sends the signal back out of the reamp box from your computer at the same high Z impedance as the guitar sound would have been, and then feed it back through a different amp with different effects pedals or whatever you want to change the sound. But I think the danger of that is getting into that tweaksville where you keep wanting to change stuff all the time, and I think that can be risky. It's kind of cooler to commit a little bit and find a sound and be confident that the sound that you've got is the sound that you want, and kind of go from it that way. That's how I feel. Somebody on I missed the name, keeps asking if I like heavy metal. I like metal. It depends on what you call heavy metal, really. I love Motorhead, and I grew up listening to kind of what I'd call hair metal. I talked about that quite a lot last week. To, you know, Guns N' Roses and LA Guns and Motley Crue and all of that sort of stuff. That's what I used to have long hair and wear cowboy boots and leather pants, you know. But I never got really much. I like Metallica as well a lot. I learned a lot of Metallica over the years, but I never went much heavier than that. So I never got into, you know, I think I had South of Heaven by Slayer, but I didn't really listen to it a whole lot. I definitely never got into like Celtic Frost and that kind of heavy, dark stuff. I just didn't flick my switch, really. Okay, Loca wants me to subscribe to your channel. Well, yeah, sure. Leave a comment to subscribe to your channel. That's very interesting. Taylor asks, what about a Fender Hot Rod 3? I don't know the Fender Hot Rod 3, I'm afraid. What's a good amp to play in public that's not too big and not too expensive? Probably the Fender Blues Junior would be something, again, on that. It looks like somebody needs banning there. Can somebody ban this Yadez person? One of the mods. God, you're a knob. If there was ever somebody who shouldn't have been born, it's you. Please go away. Okay. Hoping to eventually pick up on chords by listening. What ear train do you recommend? Picking up chords by listening definitely is a good idea. You might find it really helpful to use my transcribing tips on my website. There's a whole section on transcribing chords, and the problem usually is that when you're listening to a song, you don't know what the chord possibilities would be. So because there's an infinite number of chords that it could be, it can be hard to make a decision as to what the chord actually is. So in the song tip section of my site, I give you, I say, here's this song, go and listen to the song. The 5 chords in the song are these, and then you have to go and work out what they are in what order, which is a really nice stepping stone rather than just trying to charge straight at, you know, trying to transcribe on your own. It's a really nice step up. Definitely something that you might want to explore if you're getting into that. What BB King licks do I know? I know loads of BB King licks, and I've got a whole series called BB licks. There's at least 10 or 15 BB King licks on my website, so go and have a look there. Can you ban hopefully the Trump dude's banned now. What a knob, hey? Do I like Stevie Ray Vaughan? I love Stevie Ray Vaughan. What is a lot of amp questions today. I don't know if it's the same guy. What is a good amp that gives a good sound for a Strat that won't break the bank? Fender Blues Junior. And I don't have a deal with Fender, by the way. It's just, you know, that's a really good little valve amp, you know, and it's relatively inexpensive. It's not a cheap amp, but, you know, it's a good one. can I do Christian music? Well, probably not. I'm not Christian, so probably not going to be my cup of tea to do Christian music. I'm really sorry. Okay. Do I listen to country at all? I like Neil Youngy sort of country. I don't tend to listen to a whole lot of country, and I'm not a big fan of new country. But there's a few guys that I like Brad Paisley's incredible. He's a brilliant songwriter, incredible guitar player. Brad Paisley, wow, he can really tear it up. Incredible tone. So yeah, that would be my thoughts on country. Who was the guitar idol when I was growing up? It was a kind of mixture, I guess. Keith Richards, Martin Knopfler. In the early days were the guys that I really, really idolized. Chuck Berry as well, I guess. And later on it became like Eric Johnson and Joe Satriani and Steve Vai and that kind of technical metal stuff. And then later on it was more the jazz guys. So it was like Joe Pass and Mike Stern and Jim Hall and John Schofield and those kind of guys. So it shifts depending on what it is that, what sort of music I'm into at the time. Okay, let's go over here. Any advice on older guitar care? Older guitars can be a little bit sticky. You have to be a bit careful with the polishes and stuff. Like before I owned vintage guitars, I used to use window cleaner to clean my guitars, just like Windex or whatever it was called, and it did fine. But a couple of things that I'm pretty careful about with all of my guitars, particularly the vintage ones, is I always make sure that I use lemon oil on the fingerboard. I think lemon oil is a really good thing. You don't use it on maple fingerboards, but any of the dark wood fingerboards, I use lemon oil pretty much every time I change strings. So I take all the strings off, I put lemon oil on and I leave it to settle for maybe 5 minutes. And then I get like a face towel, like a flannel, and then I rub the frets and make sure there's no gunk left on them. And then it depends on the guitar. Some of my guitars I like to keep clean and some of them I don't. Like my Telecaster I don't really clean very often. I kind of like it getting a bit scungy. But the 335 I clean. I just use the Diodario brand guitar cleaner. I don't think there's anything particularly special about it, but it's fine on nitrocellulose finish, which is this type of finish that on vintage guitars, if you use highly abrasive cleaners, might screw your paint up, make it all cloudy and make the finish cloudy and generally not look good. So just be, if you've got an expensive instrument, an older instrument, then, try and use products that are shown to be good for that kind of instrument would be my advice, And if in doubt, go and ask somebody who knows more about it than me, because I'm not a guitar workshop guy, I'm a guitar player, and there's definitely a lot of that stuff that I don't know about. Michael asks, I've read that you should use your arm to pull back as you're playing chords instead of squeezing with your thumb to avoid hand fatigue. So it's kind of a mixture. The truth is a mixture. So I've got a funny story that I can give you. Is this I did a dep gig for funny enough, one of my old teachers, this lovely guy called Mark Johns, who I went for dinner with. I haven't seen him for 20 years. And I went out for dinner with him last night. He was visiting London. Incredible guitar player, one of the finest guitar players on the planet, definitely. Seriously incredible guitar player. Anyway, I did a fill-in gig for him, playing a duet with a singer, just me playing guitar and her singing. And it was at a club in Reading, I think it was, long time ago, 20 years ago. And I had to. We were doing that Faith by George Michael, which has got this really relentless thing. And I think that at the start of the song, she started talking to the audience or whatever, so I just had to keep the groove going while she was telling a joke and doing a bit of audience interaction. I'd been pretty tearing it up that night already, so it was kind of halfway through the second set, I think, and the thumb muscle was quite sore, and I was really struggling to play, and by the end of it I could hardly hold the chords down. I had to ask for a little break at the end, like, can you give me a couple of minutes to kind of calm down? I changed the order of the song so I had some stuff that I could play open. So some of it, the endurance thing of doing a lot of bar chords, particularly bar chords, so it shouldn't really affect regular chords so much because thumb shouldn't be too involved in pressing at the back. But it is a mixture. You can a little bit, like one of the games I used to play is playing loads of bar chords. You can't see it now. Where's the thumb gone? There we go. Keeping the thumb off the guitar. So I just have to to do that, I'm having to use my arm pulling back. Now that's not what you should do as a overall technique, but it can be a useful exercise to get a little bit of a feeling for what that, where you can create another pressure from other than your thumb. Okay? I don't think you should use it exclusively, but be aware that a little bit of pull from your arm rather, can be helpful, combined with the thumb. I would recommend, if you're doing that kind of gig where you're doing a lot of bar chords, to learn how to fret a whole bar chord using the thumb on the bass note, because that's definitely, if my hand gets tired like that, I've got that thumb over straight away, and would generally kind of use that as a more consistent kind of a way to get through your bar chords. So hopefully that helps. Okay, Mike says, any tips on helping kids? My granddaughter is just 6, getting started on guitar. So 6 is pretty young. It's about when I started. But I started kind of on a ukulele and then a nylon string classical guitar. So uke is fantastic for kids because they can learn a bit of rhythm. There's less strings to worry about. The shapes are easier. It's just as much fun. Easier to transport. So when I have kids, I'm definitely going to start them on ukulele, because I think the uke is just such a fun little cool instrument. You can learn a lot of the skills. And then as soon as their hands are kind of bigger, probably around 8 or 9 years old, I'm going to start putting them on a guitar. Full-size guitar I recommend as well. We've all seen those videos of those little North Korean kids that are, they're shorter than the guitar. They're tiny, but they can still fret all of that stuff, So it can definitely be done, and I think it's just worth battling the full-size thing at the fairly early on. Usually, I've found in the past, I found children very difficult to teach, right, to be honest. And when I was doing private lessons, I wouldn't teach any children until they knew what music they liked. Right, that was my little cut-off point. When a kid would come in for a lesson, and I'd say, I don't teach kids, and they'd bring him in anyway, and to see where, if it was going to go anywhere. And the first question would be, what bands do you like? And if they went, I really love Coldplay and I love this and I'd like to learn this song, then I was happy to teach them. But really young kids, you got to kind of venture into that, Bar Black Sheep and stuff, and making game fun songs and stuff. And it's something I might approach in the future. I might have a go at doing like a specialist kids course on my site. I haven't given it enough thought, and I don't really know about doing it because I never used to teach kids, but it's something that may happen in the future. No promises, but it might. But there you go. Okay, what do I think of Rory Gallagher? Rory Gallagher was an incredible guitar player, but Sean, this isn't the idea of the forum, isn't just like what guitar players do I like. It's not a very interesting game for most people, but I love Rory Gallagher, incredible. The Irish tour of '74, the album is definitely worth a listen. It's fantastic. I don't know how to pronounce your name when you write it all funny. I'm going to call you Kartik because I can pronounce that. No, I wasn't planning on doing a lesson for my song Broken. In fact, funnily enough, I realised that I've forgotten how to play it the other day. I said to somebody, I wrote a song in Dadgad but with a drop C, and which I think is the tuning of that song, and I couldn't remember how to play it. So it's on my to revise list, but I might tab it out and then I'll put a tab up on my site. But I'm not sure that many people are going to be into a lesson on that. Okay. I try to fancy Rocco says, I try to improve my alternate picking technique for quite some time now. Will there be the penny dropped experience in speed improving, or will it be an over time thing? For me, it's been an over time thing. However, I've recently been re-examining my picking quite a lot. Thanks to this guy, this website that I would definitely, any of you guys into kind of technical rock stuff and playing faster should definitely go and have a look at this website called Cracking the Code, if you're not familiar with it already. I was skeptical when I first heard about it, but the guy who's researched the site and who runs it, a guy called Troy, he's really methodical and has really got a great and very analytical look at how the great pickers pick, and he uses this thing called downward pick slanting, which I'm now, when I'm practicing picking, which isn't that often, but I'm now using downward pick slanting and kind of re-examining how I pick to fit this idea. I'm kind of tweaking his thing a little bit, because I'm trying to incorporate a mixture of downward pick slanting and economy picking, which is what I suspect Troy does, but he doesn't seem to teach it that exact way. And again, I think we're all slightly different. It's a good idea for us to have a different take on stuff like that. But if you don't know Cracking the Code, if you're into speed picking and alternate picking, I would definitely go on. I think the investment of I think it's called Masters of Mechanics is like a series. I did have an offer on it earlier this year on because Troy gave me like a thing for my newsletter. If you can get a hold of one of my old newsletters from somewhere, I can't remember. It was like half price or something. It was quite a big discount. But check out his Masters of Mechanics course, because it's very, very good. Would you consider Tommy Emanuel G? O-A-T? I don't know why you want me to. I don't know what that means. Tommy Emanuel's probably the greatest guitar player that's ever lived. Either Tommy Emanuel or Jeff Beck, in my humble opinion, would be the greatest guitar players ever to walk the face of the planet. Am I going to do Arabic songs? Probably not, because I don't know any Arabic songs, and I've already got my plate pretty full of doing other stuff. You mentioned Courtney Barnett last week. Any other great recommendations on current artists? If any of you guys haven't heard the Bowie record, I know that it feels a bit bandwagony now, but I was definitely blasting all over Twitter how incredible I think the new Bowie record is. It's definitely a little bit left of center, but I think that the song Black Star, the title track from the new record, is one of the finest, darkest, and powerful pieces of music I've heard. I think it's incredible. I love it. So that's kind of my record player at the moment, is that. There's also a girl called the Anchoress. Okay, and then ANCHORESS, who's an incredible singer, and she recorded a lot of her stuff in the studio upstairs of mine with a producer called Paul Draper, who was in a band called Manson long time ago. Lovely chap, Paul. Really, really nice guy. A very talented producer as well, and writer and singer and guitar player. No, yeah, and they did a record upstairs, and she's just came out this week. Confessions of a something novelist, romantic novelist, novel writer, something along those lines. But that's what I was listening to yesterday. So I've started getting the train to the studio of the daytime, because I don't like cycling when it's really cold and really wet. It feels a bit dangerous, and there's no parking at the studio, so I tend to get the tube. And so I've been listening to a lot of new music lately, and they're the ones that I've been listening to most of all. Would you recommend waiting till a new blues lead course goes? I'm about halfway through the old version. I think you'd enjoy the new one more. Maybe just go. I've got some newer ways of explaining the old stuff, which I think is a bit better. Basically, I think that the way I approached the blues lead course was good at the time, but having seen all the feedback that I got from it and the problems people had, basically I've removed the Dorian mode stuff from the first one, so I've broken it into 4. It's now 4 levels, the blues lead course, and the first one is the one that I finished. It's now like what used to be blues lead 1 is now essential blues guitar, and it's now 14 lessons long. It's got a bit more information on doing the blues curl and better stuff on string bending, and some better exercises and lessons on how to know what notes to bend and stuff. I think it's pretty good. So you might, maybe you want to wait, it won't be long. So I'm hoping to have the blues lead starting like in a week's time, a week and a bit, so maybe 10 days time, assuming. Confessions of a Romance Novelist, that's the one. Aura's got it down right. That's the name of the album I was trying to think of earlier. What did you discuss with McCartney when we met? I discussed with McCartney Blackbird, how to play Blackbird, and what else did we chat about? Oh, just about what it's like playing on TV shows. You know, that it's always a bit weird sitting backstage before you go on telly, and because telly's normally a little bit, you know, exciting or whatever you want to call it. You know, people feel a bit nervous or whatever. And so I chatted about that, and I was just a bit flabbergasted to be talking to Paul McCartney. Really, it was just a bit like, you know, shocking as it is when you meet people like that, I think. But he was really kind, really nice guy, and it wasn't long. You know, we chatted for maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, but probably more like 10 minutes. Yeah, lovely chap. Happy that I met him in my life. Blackbird is easy to me. Well, yeah, it's not that difficult, but to play it right was always a question for me, was what way he was actually doing it. And I think he told me, I think I misunderstood. I think I explained it in the video. It's not that interesting. I thought he'd said one thing, but I've watched him do it, and he definitely didn't do what I thought he'd said. So, you know. Yeah, exactly. I talk about it in the video. I don't need to repeat myself. I've never met Eric Clapton, no. I was hoping to. He was recording in a studio not far from me not so long ago, and I would have hoped to have met him, but I didn't. Okay, do I know any app where I can practice transcribing the notes I choose to? I don't know what you mean, I'm sorry. Okay, back to the board over here. Okay, Marcus asks, are there any tips for a smooth transition from playing a lick going into a chord strum, i.e. that'll be the day? No, but practice the transition. I'm just trying to think of what that is. I think that's the okay, so you want to practice getting from the end 1 minute changes. Make sure your fingers are kind of hip with that idea, and then try and make sure, again, it's all down to speed. Like any of you could play right now Cliffs of Dover, right? Don't believe me? You definitely, all of you, everyone watching this stream right now could play Eric Johnson's Cliffs of Dover. If you played it at very, 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 very slow tempo, right? So one of the things that it can be really helpful to understand is that often speed and timing are the things that are important there. So whenever you're learning something, as long as you can play it consistently at the right tempo very slowly, then you're already on the way. You can kind of say, if you like, you can play it. And then the task really becomes, instead of being able to play it, it's being able to play it at the right tempo. So then you're just working on the speed. So if I was learning that, I'd be... three, four, and then maybe again. Okay, and then just really, you know... gradually speeding it up, you know, that kind of thing is, you know, with a metronome if you wanted to, or I very often when I'm learning songs, if they're a little bit too fast, I use the transcribe program and I slow the tempo down in the transcribe program to whatever I can play it, whether it's 75% or 80% or whatever. So normally I'll practice on my own until I'm at 70-75% of the speed of the original, and then I'll put the original track on, slow the tempo down. I practice playing along, so I start to absorb a bit of the time feel as well, and I'm playing with the right timing and the right phrasing and, you know, awareness of that sort of stuff. I think that's a good idea. the Frizzor asked for some Tommy Emanuel lessons. I might do some. I was planning on doing two. I was going to do Angelina and Mombasa because I've learned them both and I really enjoy playing them. And I've seen Tommy has some videos out on how to play both those songs. And there's an incredible guitar player Tommy is, and like I said, I think he's probably the one of the greatest, if not the greatest guitar player that's ever lived. But I think that because things are so easy for him, when he explains stuff, he explains it like I can kind of get it when I'm watching his videos. But I'm thinking like, what about all the other dudes there that can't catch on? I'm not trying to say, oh, like I'm so brilliant, but you know, I've been a fan of his stuff for a long time, and I'm kind of aware of the way he might be doing stuff, so I can kind of figure it out. But if I didn't have that knowledge, I wouldn't be able to figure out what he meant. So I'd love to do them. However, he gave me a quote recently about the website, and we've got mutual friends, and he loves the website. He's seen JustinGuitar, he knows what's going on, and he offered to come and do a lesson here at the studio. I said, well, can I do a lesson? And he said, oh, I'd rather do a lesson myself. So I'm hoping next time he's in the UK, Tommy's going to come to the studio, and I'm going to get him to go through one of those lessons, but I'm going to kind of do some of the explaining to try. Well, maybe not the explaining, but the holding him back on the reins a little bit so he can actually explain it for you guys that you're going to be able to play it. Because, you know, he explains stuff pretty quick. He goes, oh, I just do this, you know, and for him it's the easiest thing ever. So he thinks that we can all do it. But for all of the rest of us human people, you know, it takes a lot of practice to get even some of those things that he says. You know, there's quite a few examples in his videos. He goes, I just do this, and it's just like, what? You know, you got it takes ages. In fact, before the show started, I was looking at some Tommy Emanuel tunes. I was looking at trying to revise them myself because I'm trying to put together enough of songs to have a solo set to go and do some gigs, some acoustic guitar gigs on my own. It's the kind of the plan at the moment, or one of the plans. And I was revising Angelina, and it's got this bit at the end, these harmonics, which he makes it look so easy on the you know, on the any of the instructional videos or when he plays it, and but it's really difficult. You know, it takes a lot of practice, and yeah, but it's cool. So yeah, maybe. The first song I ever learned on guitar, I don't know. I don't remember back that far. How do I synchronize my right and left hand when playing fast riffs and sweeping? So I'm not very good at sweep picking, so I'm not professing to be. However, all of the synchronization things are about doing stuff slowly and accurately, and then gradually building up the speed over time. So I'm not a fast guitar player. And I, you know, my chops are pretty lazy these days, but I know lots of guys with incredible technique, really, really mind-blowing technique, and all of them say that the trick is to play stuff slowly and very accurately, and then gradually build up the tempo. You know, so if you're trying to do your sweep picking and you're going like, and you know, if you do that 1,000 times, you're still going to be just as crap at it. Right? You have to sit down and go really slowly. And I haven't done any sweep picking for ages. That's about my limit right now, where I can still kind of get some of the notes ringing out. Some of them, most of them should have been ringing out. So if I was practicing it, that would be the fastest I would practice it for a while, until that became really easy, and then I'd start to nudge the tempo up a little bit on the metronome, and then get really comfortable with that, and then maybe I'll move it up a little bit more, and then get comfortable with that and move it. That is the way to do it. You know, there's not. I've heard people say that they could just play really fast, and I'm not sure I believe it, frankly. You know. All the guys I know that are really good technically spent a long time woodshedding, they call it, you know, just sitting and practicing for hours and hours at a time, playing the same thing over and over again, you know, with a metronome or with a, you know, some sort, you know, backing tracks or whatever, or drum machines at a set tempo. You know, I think that's a really big idea, a big thing. The boxer lesson, please. Been asking for almost an hour. Jamie, it's not, the idea of a live show is not a request fest. I have a request a song button on my website down the bottom if you haven't seen it, so you might want to try using that. The Boxer's a great song. I might get around to it one day. I really like it, but you know, asking me loads of times in a live stream is probably not going to help me get there any faster. Fixing intonation. I don't have time for doing that now, but I have another series that will almost certainly happen in the next few months, is with a friend of mine, Charlie Chandler, who's an incredible guitar repair guy. He's the guy who looks after all my guitars, and we'll be doing a series on guitar maintenance, which will include setting up the intonation. So you'll just have to wait on that one a little bit. Sean asks, how do I stay motivated on days where you feel like there is no point in trying to play guitar? These days I just don't play, to be most times. If I'm not in the mood for practicing, I don't practice, because I've got so much other stuff to do that I just get on with doing web pages or coding or answering emails or accounting or video editing or filming or sessions or recording songs. I've got hundreds of things that I need to be getting on with. So if I'm not in the mood for practicing, I generally don't. However, there was a time where I did, you know, big hours of practice, you know, 5 to 10 hours a day for a long time, and I would just get on with it. You know, if I wasn't in the mood or feeling motivated, tough, just get on with it. You know, and I treated it like it was a job. And if you really wanted to make a, you know, a career out of music, I think it can be good to have that kind of mentality that, you know, I get to play guitar for my job, which is amazing, and I'm so thankful to the universe for allowing this particular circumstance to happen and to be living this existence, because it's incredible, and I'm so thankful. And I think it's important for me to remember that, you know, people have to get up and go to work doing a job that they absolutely hate. You know, my missus used to go to a job that she didn't like, and I just used to feel really bad that she'd have to get up and go, you know, get up early, commute for ages, sit doing a job that you weren't particularly interested in for somebody else to make money from, with people that you didn't really like. I mean, the least I can do is sit down and do some practice on a day I don't feel like it, right? You know, it's not... but that's a slightly different circumstance. That's if you're looking at doing it for a living. If you're doing it for a hobby and you just don't feel like practicing, but you feel like you should play, how about sitting down and thinking, what do I feel like playing today? What am I in the mood for doing? If you're like, well, I don't fancy doing my 1 minute changes or practicing the major scale with the metronome, then I wouldn't. I'd just find something fun to do, because if you're not doing it professionally, the point should be having fun and enjoying yourself. So if you're not feeling it, find something that you do feel like doing. You know, even if you're a complete beginner and you only know a few chords, have a go at doing a tune that's too hard for you, but that you really enjoy, just for fun. Just enjoy yourself, because it's, you know, life's too short to be doing stuff that you don't really enjoy, you know, I think. And, you know, even reflecting back on that job situation, you know, it's my opinion that people should really try and do things that they really love doing. Of course, not everyone would be able to do that, but I don't think everyone ever will, because people just like going and doing a job sometimes. But it's my personal opinion that in life we should try and find a thing that we really love doing it, and spend your life doing that. You know, if you really love painting trains, right? Trains is what you love doing in life. And you become the best train painter ever because you do it all the time, because you love it, there's going to be a job somewhere. There's going to be some rich dudes around with toy train collections that they want painting, and they're happy to pay you handsomely for. So I always think that's kind of the right idea. Will you do a Glenn Frey song as a lesson? Yeah, I will. This is like the fourth pick that I've just dropped on the floor. Yeah, I plan to do a Glenn Frey lesson. I was kind of debating whether to do more Eagles or whether to do one of his solo things. I quite like The Heat Is On. I think that's got some cool kind of guitar-y sort of things in it. Nice little solo that he played as well. And there was another song, I can't remember the title of the song now. There's an Eagles song where he plays a really lovely solo. as well. So I might do that. I'm still trying to debate what one to do. But yeah, there will be another tribute lesson. Like, I wish that I didn't have so many tribute lessons to do at the moment. Are you planning any more lessons on time signatures? Probably, but I've got a few other areas to deal with before I start talking about other time signatures. Do I ever break a string while jamming with a band? Yes, quite often broken strings. In fact, I've broken a string in front of, 20,000, 30,000 people before. But, I had a guitar tech, so I just took the guitar off and he bought a spare guitar and I started playing again. When I was in my teenage years and early 20s, I used to practice playing with broken strings. Actually, I used to practice improvising and just take one of the strings off the guitar and try and play songs and solos just to get it's kind of a good exercise to do for lots of different reasons. It helps you explore the fingerboard in a way that you might not have done before, and also kind of it stops the panic settling in if you ever do break a string where you might need to. Do you think it's possible to be a professional solo musician if you don't sing? Well, there's lots of guys, lots of solo acoustic guitar players around that make a living doing that without singing. So, and I'm planning on trying to do a solo set without singing. I'm not planning on going out and doing singing because I don't particularly like the sound of my voice. So, yeah. Yeah, that's where we are. Anything in the pipeline with Marty? Not at the moment. I haven't spoken to Marty for a little while. He's got some serious stuff going on that he'll talk about in due course. It's not my place to talk about. But I know he's got plans to come back and do loads of awesome stuff. And he's an awesome guy, and I'm sure he's going to come back with lots of cool stuff for all of you. If I had to choose one guitar, one amp, and one pedal, what would your pick be? Wow. Probably my old Fender Telecaster. One pedal. I don't know. Probably a Timeline. Strymon Timeline delay pedal, because I love delays. And amp would be probably the Lazy J. The Lazy J20 is the amp that I tend to use the most at the moment. I really like that. But it might... I don't have one, but I love the sound of the Tone King Imperials as well. That's next on my shopping list for amps, is a Tone King Imperial. They're lovely, so I might do that as well. How can I feel strumming pattern in a song? Well, you don't tend to feel a strumming pattern in a song. You listen to the strumming pattern in the song and then try and work it out. For that, to get used to that, you either have to know the strumming pattern, have heard it before, and then be able to kind of find it, or you listen to it and then try and copy it by having an understanding of how rhythm works. If you want to get into that, I've got a ebook for sale called Understanding Rhythmic Notation, which will definitely help you with that. If you want to get into transcribing rhythms, that's something that you'll probably find very helpful. Okay, that was beginner questions. Any views on travel guitars, asks Paula Wood. I don't drive, but hate being on holiday without a guitar. I've got a couple of travel things. I'm just trying to remember the name of the one that I use most of the time. It's got the string winders are kind of under where the strings are, kind of thing. So it doesn't have a headstock, and it has like a metal thing that slots into the body that you set the guitar on, because it just looks like essentially a stick. I can't remember the name of it. It's got some name to do with traveler, but it's not the. There's a few. I never got into the small body things like the Martin Do-One and Baby Taylor and stuff. I never got really into those. I didn't like the sound of them. And there's this other type of traveller guitar that fits in my suitcase, so that's what I tend to travel with. Okay, we're kind of mostly there. There was talk about me. The moderators have just reminded me I was going to play a piece, but I was trying to prepare a piece earlier to play us out the Tommy Emanuel thing, but I didn't have enough time. I got to the studio a bit late today because I was at home editing video, and yeah, there was a bit of traffic getting to the studio, and then I had loads of technical problems, so it was all a bit. I didn't get a chance to do any practice. So I'm not going to embarrass myself playing something that that I'm not there with today, really. What hoodie am I wearing? Well, there we go. There's an interesting one. It's a Patagonia, I think. Yeah, Patagonia brand hoodie. Not a particularly special hoodie or anything. It would be amazing if you interviewed Guthrie sometime. Yeah, I don't really know Guthrie very well. And I've got loads of mutual friends of his. He plays on my friend's records and stuff. I've never really approached him, mainly because he's kind of in with the Lick Library gang and that kind of circle of people. But he's everyone says he's a lovely guy, really sweet guy. So I should try and hook up with Guthrie and see what he's up to. Any thoughts on adding the amp pedal settings to the description to the videos? I could do. I mean, it's difficult because right now for most of my videos I've been using this profiling app. I haven't used the electric guitar today, but I've mostly been using that. So it would be very difficult to describe because it's just a model of a copy of another amplifier. So the settings, right now it's set on a Vox AC30, but it's all of the settings are in the middle. But it would have depended on how the amp was recorded to try and choose that. Do I wear a hat indoors at home or just for videos? Only for videos. In fact, I was just discussing this with the missus yesterday because it's like my little disguise having a hat on. It's quite funny because I very rarely get recognised when I don't have a hat on. I'm not completely bald. I've got hair. It's getting thin, definitely. But yeah, loads of people just don't recognise me without the hat. And that's kind of cool. If I'm going to a guitar show or whatever, it can be nice to just go around and do my own thing. And then, if I want to chat with people, I can pop the hat on for a little bit and have a little chat and then take the hat off and go about my business, I know it sounds funny, but, I found it to be useful in previous occasions. So, but no, I don't wear a hat all the time. What happened to the keyboard that was standing in the corner last week? Oh, the keyboard was just a controller keyboard. It's on the floor. Because I upgraded the keyboard to a big keyboard. You can't see it at the moment. I don't think you can. I've got a big keyboard just here. Under all of this stuff is a keyboard. You still can't see it. Hang on. What's on? Oh, because it's under here. Still further you need to go around. There we go. There's a keyboard there. And I play keyboards a bit. I'm not particularly talented in the keyboard department, but I really enjoy playing keyboards, and I'm planning on using it on some of the new videos that are coming out soon. The remake of the Master the Major Scale is probably going to happen this year, and a lot of that stuff's a lot easier to explain on keyboard, so I've been kind of getting my keyboard chops up a little bit to explain to you guys yeah, how to use it if you've got a keyboard, how to have a bit of a play around on it. So I think we're about out of time now, guys, I'm afraid. Thank you for coming along. The keyboard's not plugged in, so I can't play anything on the keyboard. Do you have a Wish You Were Here lesson? I have a lesson on Wish You Were Here already, or I'm going to read. Funnily, I don't know if any of you would have noticed that or not, but there's my Wish You Were Here tab that I made with all of my little fine-tuning notes on how to play it exactly, and I will be doing a lesson on that very soon. In fact, this is my pile of things that I'm going to be filming in the near future. I think there's the other. What else is here? Oh, there's another one. There's a Life on Mars. Beautiful chords in Life on Mars. Very unusual G sharp over F sharp. That doesn't sound right. G sharp over F sharp? Nah, I think I've written that down wrong. Anyway, so I've started on that. What else is here? Oh, another one that a lot of people have been asking about, Lady Rider by Dire Straits. Lovely. Such a great, really great riff, but there's some quite tricky little lines in it. Yeah, still need. I haven't practiced it the last week because. So many beautiful. Oh, it's got that. That's such a great riff, that one as well. I need to practice that. But that's coming as well, very, very soon. I promise. They're here. They're happening. What's this one? We Are the Road Crew. Yeah, I haven't finished doing the Motorhead stuff either. I've just got so much to do. I really wanted to get that blues lead course up and running because my other channel, my main channel, not the songs one, is I haven't added anything new on it for ages. So I really, really, really wanted to get some stuff going on that. So yeah, there we go. That's the that's what I need to do, and I think definitely I need to be doing some more playing next week. I'll sort out this streaming thing because this has been good now, right? No one's had any buffering issues. Has everyone been cool with the? Because we had a really bad start today with the old buffering thing. Was a complete nightmare. Wasn't? I was really that was upsetting. But I think we got there in the end. We've managed to carry. We've focused on it, kept our cool, been able to get through the stream. So yeah, I think we're gonna leave it at that for today, and hopefully I'll have some exciting news regarding the blues lead course by next week. Weekly lick isn't coming back for a little while because I've got lots of other stuff to be getting on with at the moment. Okay, it's been fine since the restart. So it's definitely, there's this setting in YouTube to do with buffering, and so yeah, that's much better. So yeah, have yourselves a fantastic rest of your weekend. We will be back next week, same time, same place. Well, not same place, actually different URL, but I'll put the URL up on the site. And yeah, I'm finishing now because I want to go home and have some food. I'm going to get myself a pizza on the way home tonight. That's what I'm having for dinner. And yeah, that's where it's at. So look, thank you all for coming. Big thank you to the moderators. DJ Keith is in the house close to you. I didn't see Lee Evan today. Tourniquet, I think, has been around as well. So big thank you, guys, for the moderation. That's really, really helpful. You know, getting rid of that wacky Trump fan and any other nutters that I've had that I've been lucky enough not to have to see. So yeah, have yourselves a great weekend, and I'll see you for plenty more very, very soon Take care of yourselves.